Welcome to A Year in Review, ORCID's final webinar for 2025. My name is Natalie from ORCID, and Anne and I will present new features, upgrade tips to version 2026 for all ORCID modules, and discuss our plans for next year. It has been a busy year for the ORCID team. We attended TPAC in South Africa, in Canada, in Vietnam, which also included partner training and events in Montreal and Ottawa. We exhibited at Sage Future in Atlanta and Barcelona. And thanks to all of you who attended and came to say hi at our stand, we look forward to the next round of TPAC and Sage Future events next year. Many of you are aware that we launched Teamwork for Sage 300 in August this year in conjunction with Authorizations. Teamwork is a collaboration tool that integrates AC Chat, Extender and Notes to chat about and approve Sage 300 records in a mobile app. More details a bit later. We also worked on all our modules, including supporting the latest version of Python in Extender and releasing all our modules for Sage 300 version 26 and the latest product System Manager product updates for versions 23, 24 and 25. Today, we will review the new features in our modules, discuss upgrade tips, focusing on version 2026. It's a little bit of a different format where we'll mainly share resources that you can get back to when you perform the upgrades. Most of our products have had a new product update during the year, with fixes, new features, and of course, support for version 2026. You can view the details in the Options menu, on the Updates tab, and in the Release Notes that are available on the ORCID website and in the online help. Just a reminder, when you request support, we generally ask you that you install the latest update. This is both to ensure the issue isn't fixed in the latest update and to facilitate troubleshooting, as the logs, the RV-SPY results are much easier to read if you run the latest updates. We've also launched new Extender apps, mainly Teamwork with Authorizations, as well as updated PGP encryption for EFT files. Now let's look at version 2026 and the new features and upgrade tips by product. Version 2026 upgrade. Most of these tips apply to upgrading to version 24, version 25 as well. The main thing is to plan and test. You need to download the products from the ORCID website. For those of you who are not yet registered on the ORCID website, you need to complete the form called Become a Partner on https://orcid.systems. But if you have your logon details, you can log on, and in the product downloads under the resources, you can choose version 2026 and download the products for all the modules. That includes the application object model, as well as serial numbers, NFR serial numbers, that you can use for 30-day trial license. You then need to get your serial number and activation codes. They will be on the portal very soon for customers who are current as of the 30th of September. In the meantime, if you need to run an upgrade, contact us and we will send you 2026 codes. The main upgrade steps on a test database to start with, a test server, is to run the installer, follow the steps, and then in data activation you would activate all of Sage modules and all the ORCID modules. Just a little tip here, we suggest that you activate Extender at the same time or after the other modules. Don't activate Extender first. Not a big deal if you do it, but preferably to do it all at the same time. Next, you need to go into each module license screen. Here we have Extender license screen as an example, to enter your serial number and your activation code. If you don't have the activation code yet, you can get a 30-day trial by just entering the NFR serial number, saving, and you will get a 30-day trial for all functionality. For all modules, you often have custom forms or custom reports. You then need to copy them into the relevant ENG folder or the customization directory if you create them, if you use customization directory. Talking about custom forms and custom reports, it is often a good idea to redo some of these customizations to the base Crystal report forms based on the latest version, as we regularly update the forms. So for example, the EFT remittance advice might be changed, and it might be a good idea to redo. Not necessarily every upgrade, but once in a while it's worth doing. And you may have new parameters in a report that the screen requires. And all this is detailed in the ORCID help, which you can access from here, from the ORCID website and from the F1 button in the application. If we take EFT Processing as an example, you would install and activate. So that means running the EFT Processing installation program for the same version as the System Manager version. You cannot run EFT 2025 with System Manager 2026. Sometimes it may look like it's working, but it's not fully functional, so we don't recommend that. That will create the EL73 folder, and this is explained in the help. It should pick up the default file location of your Sage 300 programs and your shared data directory. And if you are installing on multiple servers or on workstations, you do need to install all the programs on all the servers and workstations with a full Sage 300 program install. You then need to activate in Sage 300 Administrative Services, go to the license screen, to the EFT license screen, and copy your custom forms and custom reports to the EL73A ENG folder, either of your Sage program files or your customization directory. And then, of course, you need to test all the key processes as well as the custom reports. Okay, so now let's look at some details product by product, and we'll start with EFT Processing, our most popular product, which helps streamline Sage 300 payments and receipts. The latest product update was released in December. It's product update 15.01, and it applies to version 2023, 24, 25, and 26. It includes sundry fixes to the EFT web screens, and a reminder that this would also then require the latest update for Extender. Handle larger check numbers in the payroll. Big change that happened in 2025 is that the encryption of remittance advice now uses QPDF EXE, which replaces PDFTK that isn't supported anymore. So this should be all transparent to you, but if you have an antivirus that is blocking some EXE in your Sage 300 programs, and after an upgrade you have concerns around the encryption of the remittance advice, it's worth checking that this QPDF file is not blocked by antivirus. Doc list has been updated to work better in French language. We have added lots of new EFT formats in a range of countries for many banks, and that is all based on your request, your customer's request. So a reminder that we do create new formats for supported versions of Sage 300 for customers who are current on software assurance or have a current subscription. We've also improved the Extender app to encrypt EFT files with PGP, and that is becoming more popular in many countries. When upgrading EFT, the main thing to consider is your user formats. You need to transfer the custom format to the new version, so the EL73A folder for version 2026, or copy them to a new server and or to your customization directory, depending on how you've set up Sage. So you need to locate your previous one and copy it over to the programs directory or the customization directory. And then we always suggest you generate a test EFT file and compare the output to the file generated with a previous version. If there are any discrepancies, please contact us. Often we suggest you test and recheck the emailing details, especially if it's on a new server. You may need to adjust the detail used to send emails or change a configuration on the server to allow the emails to be sent from the new server. So we recommend that you send a test email in EFT options and test the emailing process. A reminder that if you want to encrypt the PDFs, remittance advice, like we discussed before, you need to use AP email or AR email or payroll email. You cannot use the Sage default company profile emails. Specifically for payroll upgrades, we recommend that you always test emailing the payslip process based on the latest Canadian payroll or US payroll report. The steps are detailed here. I won't go through them right now. You can find all that in the knowledge base and the help. So now I'm going to ask Anne to demo a few tips around emailing, encrypting remittance advice, and EFT periodic processing.
When upgrading EFT processing, and especially if you're moving servers during the upgrade, we recommend that you go to the AP email tab and send a test email and just make sure that your emails are getting through, that we don't have relay issues or security issues with the send email exe on that particular server. And if you are using different credentials for AR, you should do the same here, and similarly for payroll. So they may all use the same as AP, but you may have different email accounts for AR and payroll. So you need to fill them all in here and send a test email. And if you are applying a password to the email remittance advice, then what you must use ORCID's SMTP. If you leave these blank, then it would use the EFT method as defined on your system manager company profile. But if we want to apply a password to the PDF going out, then you must fill in AP, AR, and payroll email details, and then select the option on the associated AP, AR, or payroll tab. So in this case, use the remittance advice password. So this password will be applied to the PDF, and this is the password. The vendor ID and the first three letters of the vendor name would need to be entered to open up the PDF. And that applies also to remittance advices for customers, remittance advices for employees, and you can apply a password to the emailed PDF of the payslip if you are using ORCID's EFT to email employees' payslips. And also nothing really to do with upgrades, but something people often forget is in the EFT periodic processing, the View Clear EFT audit log. So this gives you an audit trail of who changed what value from what to what when. So all the changes done to your vendors and your customers and your employees. It logs who did the change from what to what. And if you have decided to obfuscate the bank account details, then the audit trail will only show you the last 4 digits of the bank account number as well as the financial institution ID or bank branch number.
Info Manager is our suite of product to enable easy access to essential documents and reports directly from Sage 300 screens. The two most popular products in that suite are Notes and Document Management Link, but it also includes Report Runner, optional tables, and data views. What's new in the latest update, which is PU 13.05, released in November. And that includes all the new changes since the beginning of 2025. Web screens are now available for Notes and Document Management Link. Actually, this applies to version 2024 and above. For all versions, the Document Management Link users are now configured in the Information Manager license screen. This has been documented and has implications for the upgrade, so we will look at that a bit later in a bit more detail. And as part of that, you now have the ability to import DML users in the Information Manager license file from a prior version license file to make the upgrade easier. We've also fixed some DML permissions on the web screens where users without notes roles could not view the DML documents. We've also done a few improvements to the DML SharePoint integration. Again, I will not go through the details of that. This came from support queries and feedback from people. So again, a reminder that if you are running the latest update and you have challenges setting something up, please don't hesitate to contact us. Try and be as responsive as we can. In the tray and report runner, we've done a few improvements as well. The tray starts quicker, especially when you're running Sage from slow network drives. We've improved support for Chinese language in the tray. We've added a few changed a few things so that you can configure notes in DML on pop-up screens with one field on the pop-up and one field on the main screen. And you can also fix an issue we had with the AR customer activity screen. We've done a few changes to notes and extended notes, which is the ability to run a script in a note. Also have new features that was primarily to support teamwork that uses notes and extender. And in report runner, you now see the next run date in the system date format. To upgrade Information Manager, like with the other modules, you install, activate, and enter the license details. If you are using the web screens, you need to update the web tray configuration in IAM options. If you are using Report Runner, you need to check your customization directory in Sage Admin Services. Resave, recheck the customization directory in the IAM setup options. And then you need to copy all the folders in the customization directory from EB72A to EB73A if you are upgrading from 25 to 26. If you don't remember all of this, don't worry, this is all documented in the help that is available here. A few special tips for additional tips for Report Runner. If you are running a Report Runner for Crystal reports and you have data pipe reports, you will need to copy the required DLL from the source Sage 300 folder to the new EB73A folder. And if you're running Report Runner for financial reports, so to automate your GL financial reports, you need to update the path if they are pointing straight to the GL ENG folder. So you can do them one at a time in Financial Report Runner. Or if you have many reports, we have a knowledge base article with how to update this directly in SQL Management Studio. So if you have many reports in many databases, it might be a good way to investigate this, this option. Importantly, we mentioned that DML users are now configured in the Info Manager license screen. This is an important part of the upgrade, whether you are upgrading to version 2026 or if you're upgrading to the latest product update, so PU 13 and above. You now need to save your document management link users in the license screen. If the previous version's license is in the shared data folder, when you activate Info Manager, the users will be imported automatically, provided you have sufficient user licenses. If not, you can use a button called import users from prior version. And to do that, you need to copy the EB72A license file to the shared data folder, activate Information Manager, or click the button. And failing that, you need to re-enter your users manually. And note, you can use the screens to see which users are actually logged on to DML. And now over to Anne to show this to us in Sage 300.
The document management link users are stored in the license file for the version you're running. So for version 2026, it is in the eb73a.lic file. And if you're upgrading from version 2025, for example, to version 2026, when you first run the license screen, these users will be automatically imported from the 7.2a license file to the 7.3 license file. But if you've done your 2026 install on a server where there is no 2025, as long as the license file is in the shared data directory, these users will be automatically imported. But if you forget to do that at a later stage, you can copy across the EB72A license file and then click Import from the prior version. And if all else fails, you could just rekey them. And in the IAM Setup, IAM Options, on the Report Runner tab, if you are doing the new install on a new server, you need to make sure that the Report Runner customization directories, and indeed all the Sage customization directories, have been moved across to the new server. And on the Web Tray tab, you need to install the IIS module. This is once per server, it's not once per database. And you need to install the Windows service. So for this, you need the service account under which the service will run, as well as the Sage user that it will use to connect to the company with.
Let's now look at what's new in Extender. Latest product update, PU14 from November. It includes changes to supported versions of Python. So Extender now supports Python version 3.13.5, and support for Python 3.4 is deprecated because Python does not support that version anymore. We've also enabled support for version-specific Python package import. This is particularly relevant for the developers among you, but it's something that's important to note when you're working with Extender scripts. Again, in response to support queries from customers and partners, we've done some performance improvements when running multiple screen scripts on the same screen, improved support of Chinese characters and scripts. We've also added functionality to the module screen and the ability to run a script just after importing an Extender module. I won't go through the details of that, but this is important for your development teams to be aware of. And the main benefits for you as consultants is that it makes the development, the maintenance, and moving an Extender app from a test machine to a live machine or from another machine easier. This year, we also released substantial improvements to the workflow engine in Extender with the ability to configure workflow rules and their related workflow view defaults and workflow actions, where you can set up what to approve, how to determine which records need to approve, and who is going to approve. So that product update also included Extender modules with workflow templates and their related email messages and teamwork messages for a range of Sage 300 application and records, such as AP payment batches, AP invoice batches, GL batches, GL accounts, AP vendor, purchase requisitions, purchase orders, OE shipments. and all this in a much easier to implement and access than we had before. We also released Teamwork, which lets you integrate AutoSimpli AC Chat with Sage 300 through Extender, Notes, and Document Management Link. It is a mobility platform which combines communication and action, so you can chat, run workflow, and share information across Sage 300 with configurable workflow security, where back-end users, typical Sage 300 users, can chat with front-end users, typical non-Sage 300 users. You can also extend that to part-time users or subcontractors or some customers, suppliers, delivery drivers. You can action Sage 300 records in the mobile app, so chatting, approving, discussing, progressing the workflow, triggering some processes such as updating optional fields, uploading documents, all integrated with the chat. So you can track proof of deliveries, expense claims, leave application, and various documents that you can upload through the app. We have demonstrated Teamwork a few times in the last few months, so I'd encourage you to refer to those video presentations available on our website, as we don't have enough time in this presentation to go through Teamwork in any more detail. When upgrading Extender, the main consideration, as usual, you need to install, download, and activate the module. But with Extender, your scripts, your modules, your alerts, your logging configuration, everything developed using Extender is saved in the Sage 300 database, included in your dump and load of the data. So everything will upgrade automatically when you install and activate the latest version. We still strongly recommend that you run a test upgrade and test all your key processes before doing the live upgrade. One of the big change with version 2026 and PU14 of Extender is the upgrade of Python version. So Extender will upgrade the Python version of your database when you run data activation if the database has a different Python version than the Extender license file. So if you have already upgraded one database and you upgrade another database, they will all be upgraded to the new one. So it's particularly important, even more important than usual, to test. We have done a range of testing on a lot of the Extender apps and modules that we run. Pretty confident that there are no major issues with that upgrade, but it is worth testing. If you are using Extender Workflow and Teamwork, you go to the Extender module screen to import the latest Workflow and Teamwork module from the VI73 folder. And Workflow users, like DML users, are configured on the Extender license screen. You can import them from a previous license if that previous license file is saved in your shared data folder, or of course you can also re-enter them manually. Next module we're going to look at is Process Scheduler. Latest product update 12.09 was released in December. Applies to version 2023, 2024, 25 and 26. And has a few small enhancements. Fixing a problem with the end and the cell email action which weren't catching the error correctly. And also when you're running a schedule in the Process Scheduler schedule screen, which is particularly relevant when you're setting up and testing the schedules, Process Scheduler now shows the log window while the schedule is running, and you know where it's at rather than looking like a not responding screen. So small user improvement, but we hope that it makes setting up and testing Process Scheduler easier. A reminder that Process Scheduler lets you schedule your critical business processes to run automatically and unattended. typically your day end, posting batches, running, refreshing Information Manager, Crystal reports, Information Manager, financial reports, Info Explorer, doing some opening and closing some fiscal periods in multiple Sage databases. And Process Scheduler is particularly useful if you're running these processes across multiple Sage 300 databases, as you can run it all without logging in and out of all these databases. To upgrade Process Scheduler, the main thing to remember is that you need to update the user details again. So first, in Process Scheduler setup, in the main company where you activate Process Scheduler, in Process Scheduler options, you set the username and the password to connect to that database. And then you need to save the user details in all the companies where you want to run an active schedule in Process Scheduler companies. And we suggest that you use a dedicated user to run Process Scheduler that has the rights to perform the tasks that you want Process Scheduler to perform in Sage Admin Services. And of course, like with all the modules, doing an upgrade, you need to test that the processes work. To fully run Unattended, you need to configure Windows Task Scheduler. So you need to change the scheduled task to use the new scheduler. So if you're upgrading from version 25 to version 26, you will now run the Oz Process Scheduler exe in the OZ73A folder, and instead of the same file in the OZ72A. In version 2023, I believe we renamed the old Oz Data Integrity, Oz Integrity Checker exe to now Oz Process Scheduler. So if you're upgrading from a really old version of Process Scheduler, you will need to find the right name, the right exe. Again, this is all documented in the Process Scheduler help. And now Anne is going to show you a few examples of this.
Upgrade tips for Process Scheduler. If you are moving the server where the Windows Task Scheduler is being used, remember you need to reset up all your Process Scheduler schedules. So in this case, our daily checks, which is going to run whether the user is logged in on or not, and the triggers, it's going to run at that particular time, and the action is to run the OZ Process Scheduler.exe and pass in the Process Scheduler schedule. And the OZ Process Scheduler exe is from the OZ73A directory. And remember, the user that it's running under, if this is a newly created user, you must make sure that this user has access to run the Sage 300 programs. So if you are changing the server where your Windows Task Scheduler runs, then you need to reset up your schedules. Or if you are using the same server, you just need to change the actions, because you need to change the OZ Process Scheduler exe to run from the OZ73A directory instead of the OZ72A directory if, for example, you were going from version 2025 to version 2026. And when upgrading Process Scheduler, you must remember, if you have changed your Process Scheduler user's password, you need to reset it up here. So this is the company that you are going to read the schedules from. And for any companies that you're running schedules in, you need to set them up again in this particular Process Scheduler companies. So you need to have all the user IDs and passwords that Process Scheduler is going to use in all the relevant companies.
Next, inter-entity transactions and trade. Accounting team's dream module that facilitates transacting between entities in Sage 300. The latest product update, PU 14.06, and that all applies to version 23, 24, 25, and 26. Fixes a few issues relating to IET triggers and AP and AR reallocation. We also did a few improvements to inter-entity cache management. And again, this was mainly in response to support queries. So a reminder to not hesitate to contact us when something doesn't quite operate the way you think it does. Upgrading inter-entity, transactions, and trade. Once you have activated the new version, you need to resave the Sage 300 details. If you're using inter-entity transactions, you need to resave the details for all company in IET entity database mappings. And if you're using inter-entity trade, you need to resave the user details in trade organization setup. And reminder, we have been supporting the latest changes to complex passwords and version 2023 PU3 updates of the passwords for a long time. And like with all the other modules, a reminder to test that your transactions are processed the way you expect to before you run your live upgrade. And now Anne is going to show this to us in Sage 300.
For both inter-entity transactions and inter-entity trade, the upgrade tips relate to whether or not you've changed the user ID and password that inter-entity transactions and inter-entity trade are going to use. So for inter-entity transactions in inter-entity entity database mappings, you have the user ID and password for the user to be used to create GL batches in ORCing 2, ORCing 3, and ORCing 4. And these connection details are also used when creating cache management, bank entries or AP and AR transactions too. So if you've changed the user ID and password to be used in the target companies, you need to change it in inter-entity database mappings in all the companies where inter-entity transactions has been activated. And for inter-entity trade, you need to update the trade organization setup. So entity 1 creates transactions in entity 2. So we need to have the user ID and password to create the trade transactions, which may be AP to AR or OE to PO. So for all the companies that you need to connect to from Orc Ltd, you need to set up the new user ID and password. And in any companies that are coming back to Orc Limited, you need to do the same setup as well. So you need to set up the trade organizations for every company where inter-entity trade has been activated.
Return material authorizations, RMA from our operations suite of products. What's new in the latest update? As you probably know, RMA lets you accurately track returns and repairs from within Sage 300. We have added new security groups, so you can now control users who can create replacement order posting or PO return posting, and it basically adds to the existing RMA document credit note posting security group. We fixed a few issues, very specific issues in RMA transactions, when you had quotes in the item number, or when using IC price check and RMA authorization when an RMA had more than 127 comments and instruction lines. What does it mean when upgrading RMA? Again, once you've activated and when you're upgrading to RMA product update 13.04 or later, you must update security settings to allow users to create replacement order or PO return posting. You can either add a new security group with those options or update your an existing security group. And again, this is all documented in the help in more details. As with other modules, if you are using custom forms from RA instructions, you need to copy them to the new RA folder, so RA73A ENG folder, or your customization directory. And if you're emailing forms, suggest you test the emailing process in RMA, as emailing from RMA uses the detail in Sage company profile. And this is all documented in more detail in the online help. As we run a webinar on RMA fairly recently, and we did cover these topics, these new features, I would encourage you to watch the video from the October webinar if you have any questions on using RMA. Bin tracking. What's new in the latest update? PU 14.01, released a few weeks ago. Bin tracking lets you track inventory items accurately across multiple bins within Sage 300. And we did a webinar on bin tracking last month, so you probably know everything about bin tracking already. But we've added a new tab in BT options that lets you save your stock take posting default options. We've also changed the picking sequence per item to default from ICI lock and IC item. We've added a new IC label report and made some improvements to the bin tracking item and bin inquiry feature. Changed the bin transfer reconciliation report to use a temp table to speed up the printing of that report on large databases. When upgrading bin tracking, it's really a question of activating and testing. As with other modules, if you use custom forms or reports for bin tracking, you need to copy them to the new EOY 73A-ENG folder or the customization directory. You then need to test your custom layouts. And if you are using third-party apps such as handheld devices or other applications, make sure that you also test with their latest version. And as I mentioned before, we did cover bin tracking last month, so again, we will not show you anything in the application for today. Finally, what is coming in 2026? Here are some elements of our roadmap, items that we are currently working on. It is subject to change, and timing are still to be defined. We will of course continue to test and support the latest operating systems, latest Sage System Manager changes, and other feature requests. We are working on the extended workflow console being available on the web screens, as well as the ability to run extended notes on the web screens, that is the ability to run extended scripts in notes. We also plan to complete the remaining EFT processing APAR web screens and keep working on transaction screens for the other modules web screens. We're working on Teamwork Release 2 with some improvements, ability to print reports, and other new features. We will keep developing new EFT formats as required, and for those of you who also work with EFT processing for Intact, reminder that all these formats are, when they're created for Sage 300, are also available in Intact and the other way around. We are hoping to add some more EFT processing documentation in French for both Sage 300 and Sage Intact. And we're also working on support for SFTP in EFT processing for Sage Intact. Of course, there will be some more events. Our monthly webinar starting on the 20th of January. And we also look forward to seeing you at the various TPAC and Sage events, starting with the EPAC Executive Forum in January in Kuala Lumpur and TPAC in South Africa in March. In the meantime, enjoy your break, and thank you very much for your support over the course of this year.